Coming up, part 2 of our look back at the royal year, diving into a complicated one for Prince William and Kate. All that on the Sky News Daily after this.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel.
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
And we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi there, Niall Paterson here in the Sky News Daily studio, where once again we're focusing on the royal family, and certainly cancer has been a big theme for them over the past 12 months. First, of course, King Charles, and then the Princess of Wales, Catherine. William and Kate came under pressure, first for their lack of presence, and then for a photoshopped image which led to comparisons with North Korea.
It's a relaxed family portrait, all smiles to celebrate Mother's Day. As subject matter goes, it couldn't be less controversial. So why was the photo met with the rarest of journalistic retractions, a kill notice from multiple global picture agencies?
Then came Kate's announcement.
The Princess of Wales has announced she is receiving treatment for cancer. Kate's health and well-being has been the object of intense media scrutiny and outlandish online conspiracy theories over recent weeks.
Prince William says he'd like to carry out his official duties with a smaller R in royal. What on earth does that mean? And what does it tell us about his future as king? I'm back with our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, taking us back to the events that led up to Kate's own cancer announcement. Because if I remember correctly, there was something of a frenzy going on online. Just remind us why.
So I think this is a classic example of just how popular, in a way, the royal family is globally. So we knew that she'd had this abdominal surgery. And then there was silence. And we knew that she was back at Windsor recovering, but they weren't telling us anything else. And look, we all face the problem now, don't we? That in a vacuum of information, people will just fill it.
With stuff they've made up sometimes, unfortunately.
And that is what happened on social media. And it got completely out of control. I won't repeat some of the rumours that were out there, but they were awful. They were offensive.
People were putting up missing posters.
Yeah, and I just think it was a time when the family did genuinely feel under attack. They felt that they had given enough. They had said that she'd been in and had this abdominal surgery, and they didn't want to share anymore. And that's not surprising for the Prince and Princess of Wales. For them, there has always been this very distinctive red line about what they will and won't share about their private lives. And
can you say where that red line is?
Yeah, anything to do with the family, anything that's personal. And actually, I think people in the past have said that's fine, because I think there's a great deal of affection towards them as a couple. But on this occasion, people that you wouldn't normally think would be interested were just going down a rabbit hole on social media and saying to me, well, have you read this? Have you read that? I know that Prince William was absolutely livid. He'd had enough, and he did feel like they were under attack. We then, of course, had the photograph that was released, which had been taken by Prince William of Kate and the 3 children, released for Mother's Day. Then subsequently we found out that had been photoshopped.
Which just threw petrol onto the bonfire.
Yeah, and it was in some ways the worst thing they could have done. I think they wanted us to see that she was doing okay, and instead it had the opposite effect, which in some ways is why I think she felt that she then had to do that video. Hardly any makeup on. She didn't look well. In some ways, I think it was the only way that they were going to shut the noise down, was by her delivering that message. And look, it was so different from anything we've ever seen from a member of the royal family. Kate just speaking directly to the camera and explaining how she'd had the operation, and then in post-operative tests, cancer had been found, and then she was going to have this preventative chemotherapy. It was heartbreaking, the way she just tried to explain how they wanted to tell the children before they broke up for the Easter holidays. then they told the world.
But you said that William was livid. But I have to say, I mean, when you're the heir to the throne and your wife is not visible for an extended period of time without explanation, people are going to speculate. More than that, if you put out a photo into the public domain on Mother's Day of all things, and it turns out that it was photoshopped when the denizens of the darker corners of the internet are already frothing at the mouth, what do you expect's going to happen?
Yeah, but I just think it was described to me, it was a dark time for them as a family. Other families who would be going through this kind of diagnosis would be able to kind of hunker down, retreat. They couldn't. And actually, one thing I will say for him is he did end of February, March, he did get back to the royal duties at a time when the speculation was literally reaching fever pitch. And look, we've seen how his brothers responded to the press at times.
Oh, yeah.
He literally could have lost it, and he didn't. But I think what we have seen this year, and this is how it's been described to me, is there's been this kind of evolution in the way that the Waleses have wanted to communicate with the public. Certainly from the princess, I've never heard her speaking this personally and this openly. I think also with Prince William, it has really set in his head what the priorities are for him in life, and also in a strange way probably what he wants to achieve through his role.
Do you think that this revised media strategy, this perhaps at times compelled more openness from the pair, do you think it is likely to last? And do you think that it has had any sort of positive effect on the way in which some, let's say it, some people have viewed Catherine and continue to?
I think there's always been a genuine warmth towards William and Kate, and not necessarily a great appetite to kind of criticise them. What I've always felt with the Prince and Princess of Wales is almost I've wanted to know more. I've wanted to know more about them and how they tick. And I think we've had that this year. Certainly from her. Look, if we needed to hear it any louder, then we certainly got it this year. The importance of family and the children. And they are the ones who are front and centre. And that, I think, as she continues, what we're told is this kind of gradual return to the public duties and managing her health, but also her priorities. The priorities very firmly are the children. What's going to be interesting moving into the new year is to see how much she decides that she can get back to the official duties.
But I suppose also one of the things that must have happened as a result of, let's not forget, his father's cancer diagnosis, is that the Prince of Wales will have been thinking an awful lot more about the day that he becomes king. I mean, from what he has been doing, saying in public, do we have a vision of what King William will be like?
Yeah, I feel like we are ending this year with the clearest vision yet of what he intends to do in the future when he becomes king. And also what he wants to do as heir. Of course, his father had a very long time to cement in our minds what it meant to him being heir to the throne and what he felt he should do. I think with Prince William now, when we were recently in South Africa, he was talking to reporters and he talked about wanting to do royalty with a small r, how it's all about impact.
Right. I'm going to have to ask you to explain that.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that the royals are fond of being referred to in lowercase letters. It's all about caps, full serif, bold, isn't it? He's a prince, for goodness sake.
I
Small
know.
r royalty. What does that mean?
Well, they live a very privileged life.
Oh, yeah.
And they will never be able to get away from that. From having conversations with his team, I think for him the word they keep using is impact. And that is why you now see very clear kind of causes that he's now aligning himself to. So homelessness, mental health, the climate crisis. He's trying to cement in our minds, right, these are the things that I really want to make a difference on. The Earthshot Prize, for example, in South Africa, it's now this enormous entity. They like to call it a movement.
But technically, aren't these things that he can only prioritise whilst he's Prince of Wales? When he becomes king, surely he has to be above the fray.
Yeah, he does. And I think this year what it has done is it's made them really think about the realisation of what is to come in the future, probably much sooner than they wanted to think about it. And also, at the start of the year, we concentrated a lot on what it meant to him, knowing that his wife was unwell and having to communicate that to the children. But I think it was also important to remember that his father was ill and the implications of if he did lose his father, what that means for William's life that he has created. They now live in Windsor. They have what I'm told is a nice family life. He can put, to a degree, his wife and children first. That would all have to change. Life would completely be upended.
Rhiannon, pause there for a second. We'll be back in a moment.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel,
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
and we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.
Is it these kind of smaller European royal houses, that kind of model, where they are a fixture of modern life?
Do you know what? It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because we often talk about the European royals and how they've got proper jobs alongside doing the kind of ribbon cutting and things. I was with Prince William in South Africa, and he went and met some, like the RNLI equivalent, and was talking to them about how he used to do his air ambulance work and saying how much he would love to go back to doing that. I genuinely think that is what he would love to be doing, is working for the air ambulance. That is what really kind of excited him.
Who's going to tell him no?
Well, he can't do it. But every time he does engagements with members of the emergency services, you can tell he would love to be back in that. He can't do that. What he can do, and I think this is where the royal with a small r comes in, is he genuinely wants to try and make a difference to individuals that he meets. Look, one, Liz Hatton, the photographer, the young girl who had cancer, they were able to meet her at Windsor Castle and then help her before her death to kind of tick off some of her bucket list, some of the things on her bucket list. That, I think, is what he wants to do. He wants to get into communities and genuinely make a difference. And yeah, that's him setting out his stall, I think, in a way that we've never heard him kind of set it out as clearly.
We've seen William and Catherine both more visible at times this year. Obviously, there was the fallow period. But what are the kids? Where are they? I mean, again, we are seeing them more and more, although, as always, carefully controlled, carefully corralled.
Yeah, except the video that we saw. Do you remember the video in the summer where they were on the beach in Norfolk and in the woodlands and things when the princess was announcing that her treatment had finished?
Of course, yeah.
As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The last 9 months have been incredibly tough for us as a family. Life as you know it can change in an instant, and we've had to find a way to navigate the stormy waters and road unknown.
That, for me, was just this extraordinary moment where they kind of welcomed us into what is usually their private sanctuary. Interesting to see the children in that context. But I think that she deliberately did that in a way to kind of show us, this is what's kept me going. This is why this is so important for me. Now back off. Give us some space again. I think you're right. We are seeing the children as and when they feel that the children need to be there. I don't know whether we'll see another video like that. That was just extraordinary. I never would have expected a video like that from William and Kate.
The only reason I say that is, in the absence of them, the public don't know who these kids are.
I don't think they necessarily feel that we need to know who they are yet. William, again, in South Africa, talked about how school is the priority. Again, when the princess was communicating about her own health issues, saying that she wanted to give the children private time. Their number one priority is still protecting the children's privacy. However, they know that these are 3 children who've been born into this strange, peculiar, privileged life. And so they need to get used to facing the cameras, but not in the way that William and Harry had to when they were younger.
How much of 2024 has been and how much of 2025 will be about William trying to preserve a monarchy that exists until his children can take up the reign?
I think we've got a while to go yet.
Yeah.
The children are still quite young.
Yeah.
He's just very clear on how he wants monarchy to work. He wants to make a genuine difference. He wants to make impact. I don't think he feels that he needs to use the children as a kind of picture opportunity. They will never do that. And I think this has come across this year. William, for a very long time, I think, has hidden how he's felt about the press and press intrusion, certainly more so than Harry. But obviously, around all the speculation at the start of the year with the princess, we saw very clearly. When he was in the car leaving the hospital, he had a face of thunder as he saw the photographers. And look, that's how he feels, and that's why he will always do everything he can to protect the children.
There's a bit of his dad in them, isn't there?
There is definitely a bit of that.
Rhiannon, thanks very much. And that is your lot for this episode. Next time, though, Rhiannon and I will be taking a look back at the year for Prince Harry and Meghan and what lies ahead for the family in 2025. We'll see you then.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and volatile. How can we make sense of it all?
I'm Richard Engel,
And I'm Yalda Hakim.
and we present Sky News' latest podcast, The World. Each week, we'll cut through the noise to guide you through the week's global events and explain to you why what happens out there matters to you wherever you are.
We're on the ground in some of the world's toughest places. Listen now to The World with Richard Engel and me, Yalda Hakim, wherever you get your podcasts.